Where to start, man? This is going to be the first in a four-part series that I'm going to do. It's an expansion on the spoken word tour. This time we went and got the big boys of Georgia. Some of the guys said yes, some of the guys said no. Some of the guys, there was some other outlying circumstances, and I spent several days just waiting and hoping, but things never quite came together. So we got 4 really good videos out of this situation, this trip, and I can't wait to share them all with you. The first up, of course, is a gentleman that's been on the radio for almost 50 years straight. Him and his crew of monsters that live in Georgia, they're all really good friends. When I travel around, I get to meet all kinds of different people, right? And 99% of the time, what we have is a situation where so-and-so's on the radio and so-and-so's on the radio and they hate each other. And when you go and you look at it and you go back far enough, you'll find that they used to be really, really tight buddies. You know, and they were doing the radio thing together, and then one of them got bigger than the other one, and then there was argument. Ego. Ego is a powerful, powerful tool. That's what I see most of the time. The operators that I dealt with in Georgia, absolutely not the case. Absolutely not the case. Those guys, the big ones, are all pretty tight, and they talk to each other, and there's a mutual level of respect that's shared amongst them all, which I think is great because it's self-supporting. It also helps that they've got a couple really big techs that live down there, like Van and a few others that live down there, to help keep them all going, right? The first gentleman that we're going to sit down and talk to, his beautiful wife and his entire family welcomed me in like... The only other experience I've had close to this is when I went to 300's house, right? I go to 300's house, him and his wife made me feel like I'd just been there forever, right? And the food that we had that night, and we cooked together down there at 300's place, are some of the memories I'll carry with me forever, right? That's why 300 is my friend. Him and his wife are my friend, Miss Jack A. The same thing happened at Jack of Diamonds' place. I went over to meet him on the day that I was there. We hung out. We kind of went over and assessed another situation. I'd had a bunch of mechanical problems by this point. I ran over, I think, like a 4x4, somewhere along the lines, and I was supposed to get there like early Friday morning, early Saturday morning, and start doing the interviews. What ended up happening is I spent half my day trying to get tires on my truck. The cords broke on one of my tires, and the cords were breaking on another one of my tires. I ran over like a 4x4 in the rain. It was raining like golf ball size drops of rain. It was horrible. I couldn't see anything going down the interstate, trapped between 2 semis. I think I ran over something. So I ended up getting started into this interview process later in the day, and I just went over and I spent the evening with Jack of Diamonds, and we rode over to another friend of ours and spent the afternoon with him. And it was already so late in the day, we cut that off. And for the first time on the trip, I'd had a chance to sleep in the next day, and I took it. I got up and went over to Jack of Diamonds' place, and his wife, she had homemade fried chicken. She had green beans. She had homemade corn. She had homemade short ribs. She had, the cobbler she made was... A woman can cook. Anyhow, the whole family brought me in, sat down, and we just had a great time. I got to meet the children, the grandchildren, the great-great-grandchildren, the babies, everybody. It was absolutely wonderful. So, why I've got y'all here, I want to say, by the way, you might want to think about coming and supporting us on Patreon. Patreon is what allows me to be able to do these trips and bring this kind of content to you guys. The trips are incredibly time-consuming, right? And through the support of the Patreons, we get to all have this one-to-one kind of thing. I create the content, you guys help me figure out how to pay for it. So the Patreons down here, big shout out. Over here, 12 around the valley at 12 Productions. Also, big shout out for helping me on this trip. The Patreons are one that make it possible that we don't have commercials during any of these interviews, during any of my videos. So if you've ever learned anything, absorbed anything, or ever thought, man, how can I help support this guy, please come over and join my friends on Patreon. It's $1. It'd be very much appreciated. Gentlemen, on that note, I'm done plugging everything I got to plug. My personal good friend, Jack of Diamonds. There we go. As you let the big box cool down in the background.
Give it a second. We didn't care much, but had that with that
Still got a lot of air go over the,
yeah.
you know, the filaments and whatnot.
Yeah.
Man, that was a good meal you fed me yesterday.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed.
Man, your wife can cook, sir. Yeah. The chicken, I just love the chicken because it wasn't like, you know, KFC and it wasn't Popeyes. It was home. You know what I mean? It was nice.
That wasn't, like I said, that wasn't really. Oh, you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas. Oh my God!
Oh, but the spread's amazing.
Thanksgiving is really something that, because you got the banana pudding, you got the strawberry shortcake too, and sister-in-law, she cooked some kind of pie. But there's more meats, but there's always ham. Usually there's a roast, or beef short ribs.
Ribs are pretty good.
Yeah, and
only got one rib, but and they were gone quick.
Oh yeah, they took that. Well,
we had a lot of people here yesterday. There was
that wasn't everybody though.
10.
Yeah, that was. Let's see, who wasn't? Her sister wasn't here, and other sister wasn't here, and their kids, and then her niece Dominique wasn't here, and Dominique bring 4 to 5 with her. Oh man, we were a little bit off yesterday. And my son, the one down at teaching down at the university, he drives up here like an hour, 20 minutes. He gets up an hour sometime. He's here. So we were light. Yes, that's why she said she was a little light yesterday, because Tyrone wasn't there. So we'd meet Tyrone on the way to New Orleans. We always have breakfast with him on the way. Tyrone, and plus this is a blended family too. She and I have been married 43 years. She was married before, I was married before. She had 2, and the baby is she and I, but don't tell them that. They
all the same family.
Yeah, to them, that's my sister, that's my brother, you know?
Right.
And the girl, she's the baby. They treat her, that's why I said she's the baby, because the rest of them are boys, she's the girl, so they treat her like the baby, you know? I always tell her that's my baby because she's the girl.
She's a full-grown woman with kids of her own. And
oh yeah. She's
a very nice
she's
lady.
55 years old. She's 55, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, she got the daughter there at Tennessee State, and then the one was sitting right here. Then the middle boy, he had 3 sons here yesterday. 3 of his, and Terrell, granddaughter wasn't here. That's why she had my wife's car at the car wash. Had to switch her car, so granddaughter wasn't here she had to work yesterday. No, we weren't. That was just kind of a little light crowd, and all of them get along so well together.
Everybody got along well, really well.
They get along. I mean, they love each other. You know, I mean, they just. I don't ever have to come in between them. It should be good. I'm gonna go and turn this off. It should be all right. It ain't gonna hurt nothing. Yeah.
Put that on a timer. You should have Van put that up on a timer for you.
What?
I flip one switch, everything shuts off automatically. High voltage comes off. Then 6 minutes later, and then it shuts itself off in a time down sequence.
I speak to him about that. He only live about 20 minutes from here. Yeah.
I'd like to meet him someday.
Yeah, he came over here on Christmas Day. Thanksgiving Day and worked on my stuff. He was out of town when that Salt Star blew. And he said, well...
I've heard a lot of good things about him.
Yeah, he said, well, Jack of Diamond, I'll be there tomorrow. About 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock he was here. He pulled up out front, and he worked on it till about 5 o'clock, and he was trying to use some other stuff, and it wasn't working. He said, "I might have to change the whole sauce, take the whole sauce side out." And whatever he was trying to do, he said, "I come tomorrow." I said, "You come tomorrow?" "Yeah, I come tomorrow. You want to talk? You want to talk? You want to talk? You know?" And I said, "Yeah, but it's Thanksgiving," and he came back. I said, "Well, my goodness," and really, he didn't charge me. He charged me $400. 2 days, and on a holiday, I said, "Man, follow over in the box." Yeah, look, yeah, he's short, look really guy. He D-Rail had his every fall. D-Rail has his little get together, and he brought a 215 box up to D-Rails. Took the cabinets off, opened up the back of the van, and says, $10,000. Anybody want to take it right now? And they could see it. He let because he took all the cabinets off, and they could see it.
Yeah, I've seen a video of that.
Oh, you saw it? Okay, yeah. And a lot of people didn't know who he was, and so he came over and spoke to me first. I had my back turned. I had some of my books, and look. He says, "Jackie Diamond, hey, what's going on?" I said, "Oh." So he and I talking. People coming around. They didn't know. I said, "This is Van, the man with Superman's box, our technician in Atlanta." He said, "I got a box that built better than Superman box." And he said, and they followed them over he opened them doors up, and them eyes had, a lot of guys hadn't seen nothing like that, especially a lot of guys who don't talk on six, And some of those guys up there, you get a lot of mountain guys coming, and from the Carolinas up in there, and there was.
Well, it's an interesting breed of people up there up north.
Yeah.
They're good people, don't get me wrong. I went through there the last time I come down this way.
Yeah, that's him.
You got your flashlight on your phone,
Oh,
right?
I shook that.
Yeah, so you've been sitting there flashing us on the camera with it, so.
Well, I don't know, I think I hit it by mistake when I was trying to pull up Van's picture.
There you go.
Yeah. He had a...
So
but
let's start with this now. Okay. Where exactly was your first exposure to radio?
Back in 1975, I was dating my wife at the time. She was
First wife, second wife?
second wife, my present wife. I had a real estate company. And I needed another secretary, and I ended up, because I was handling the HUD repossessions. I had the contract.
So it wasn't in Vietnam,
No.
everybody else are like, well,
No.
I started with radio when I was in the Army, or when I was in the Navy, or
No.
when I was in the Coast Guard. So.
This came as a result of my wife, who was my secretary, and I began to date. And her sister was dating a truck driver named Yellow Jacket out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And actually, what happened, my father had gotten a CB radio, just a regular 23 channel on his Cadillac. And I got one because he got one. What happened, I had to borrow his Cadillac one day. And we both had 75 Cadillacs. But I turned his CB radio on because I was using it. He was swapped out, get mine serviced. And somebody said, "What about that Cadillac?" And I picked up the microphone and said, "Come on, it's a Cadillac," and that was it. That's the first time I talked to her, and I liked that. I went back, took my daddy's Cadillac back, and I wanted me a CB radio. And I went to, back then, 75, there were a lot of people getting CB radios. It was a crave at that time. Breaker 19. I went and got me a Midland 23 channel radio with, I don't know, some just regular antenna on it, back of it. Probably paid about $400 or $500 for it back then. That's when the CB crave was really big. The radios cost a lot of money. But when that first time that man said, "How about that Cadillac?" I was hooked.
Yeah.
Back in 1975. And from that point on, I met my sister-in-law's boyfriend, who was a truck driver. And And I said, I want to get a power mic. What you want a power mic for? I said, so I can get out. He said, people can hear me better. He said, well, power mic ain't gonna really make you hear you better. I said, well, they say you need to get a power mic. He said, well, no, what you need is a linear.
Foot warmer. Yeah.
A foot warmer. I said, what is that? He said, come over here. And he was in town, and he was driving for True Value Hardware at that time. Mm-hmm. He drove a big truck with a big yellow paint bucket on it. And he went and got his tractor, put me in, said, get up in here. And he showed me his I think he had a Mako Duster in a diesel car. And I forgot what kind of radio, but he had a Mako Duster and antennas and all. And he said, this is what you need. You want to get out. This is what you need something like this. You want something to talk about? I said, yeah. He said, well, I'll be back here next week or 10 days. I'm going to have you something. We'll set you up. And he brought me back a Palomar TX100.
What color was it?
Black. It was black with the blue ring around, square around it.
Yep.
And he put that, and then he brought me back a Big Mama antenna specialist, Big Mama antenna. And I had a 75 Cadillac. And he went and installed in me, had the middle and 23 channel, then he put a piece of cardboard between them and put that TX100 right on top of it, and put that right in the middle of my hump right there. Mm-hmm. And he put me a Turner, hand mic, the Turner Plus 2, I think that's with the Blu-ray and the white face on it. Mm-hmm. Put me that power mic on there. Put me that Big Mama antenna in the back of my trunk back there, and I figured I own the world.
It's not like today where everybody's got a million watts. Back then, if you had a couple hundred watts, you were really doing good.
Yeah. To me, to be able to talk from the west side of Atlanta, south side of it, the west side over to the east side of Atlanta, because at that time, the CB Craig, it was a lot of folks in the airway. And then he told me, he said, now, I said, well, I can talk with the trucker. He said, well, yeah, you can talk with the trucker. He said, but you need to go down here to this channel right here. And he took me down to channel 6.
So what was your very first radio that you actually had?
That 23 channel high gain.
Okay.
23 channel high gain.
Now, did he set you up with your power and all that stuff? Like he, backed the radio up a little bit so you weren't overdriving?
No, he didn't do it. He just, I don't know. He did it all for me. He was a truck driver.
And what was his handle? Do you remember?
Yellow Jacket.
Yeah.
Out of Louisiana, out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay.
And he used to go through Memphis, and in fact, he introduced me to Calvin out of Mako. Everybody knew Calvin back in and I met Calvin.
Yeah.
That's how I met Calvin, through Yellow Jacket.
Yeah.
And but he set it up for me, and I was on my way. And then later on, he brought me. He said, "Well, I got talking, and I thought I was doing big things in the Mobile, talking across town." And he said, "Now I started. What's that? How you talk to them folks out in California and Texas? How they get to talk to them?" He said, "Oh, you need to have an antenna up, outside antenna." So first, I put up a pop-up pole with a Astro antenna, ground plane, like the upside down. Mm-hmm. I put up an Astro ground plane, and I put that Astro ground plane up, and and he brought me back a Palomar 300 Skipper, the black Palomar with a separate piece to it.
Black on chrome or black on black on black?
At the chrome top.
Mm-hmm.
The chrome top with the black and the separate power supply. Mm-hmm. And on that Astro ground plane, I talked Skip.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Right, I talked Skip. I talked to Lazy Daisy out of California, and the next day I talked to her up in somebody in Ohio. I can't call his handle now. My old timer's kicking in, but he was well named CB. I didn't know how well he was known that time, but he came. I got to meet him later on, and and then it's like when I first held the CB in the car. All you gotta do is one time and you hook up, then you want more.
Yeah.
After I talked them two QSOs, then I wanted to talk some more Skip. and I was hitting and missing with the ground plane. And that's when Yellow Jacket went up to Mako of Memphis and brought me back a set of Laser 500s. Set of laser, flat and vertical, and brought me back 80 feet of tower. I was in real estate. Real estate business was really good back then, and there was a lot of transition. And he was just spending my money for me.
Let me help you spend your money. Yeah.
And he just come back and say, "You give me this," and I give it to him. And he put my tile. He clamped my towers. He stacked. He bought a gym pole, and I had to pay for that too. And he stacked that tower, kept stacking, and we put up them Laser 500s, flat and vertical. And I remember the first morning, I still had the Palomar. I'd been talking ground plane. The big thing back then was everybody good morning, say, "Good morning, so-and-so, good morning." The good morning roll call. I messed around. I had one guy was named Red Fox, and he lived going up 75. I lived down there to the airport. And I turned them beams around there on him. I knew where he lived. And I said, "Good morning, Red Fox." He had a face. "Oh, let me turn this radio down." I busted his radio out.
Laid it over in the black.
Yeah, they on the black. And that's when I knew the power of the beams.
Power to beam is no joke.
Yeah, over the ground plane.
You reach a point where it's better to do it at the antenna than it is to try and put a bigger amp down in the... People don't get that. They're all about more power. And it's no, the antenna does most of the work.
Yeah, it was... Did a lot of talking with that Skip 300 and that Palomar. Palomar 300 did a lot of talking.
So you put your first bass up what year, do you think?
I would say it was 76, about 1976, the spring of 76.
And what was the local channel here?
6. I talked on.
Always been 6.
I've always been on 6. That's the only channel I've ever talked on. 'Cause that's where Yellow Jacket took me to. And the Roots of Challenge Jumpers were quite strong here in Atlanta at the time.
Yeah.
And they kind of policed that frequency, and I just first thing I would do to get used to it, I would just say good morning, so and so, Jack of Diamond. Jack of Diamond said good morning. "Who are you?" "Jack of Diamond," and I would just follow in line with everybody else to get used to it. I didn't know the language, what I call the lingo or the slang or whatever. I just said, "Good morning, Speed Merchant, Jack of Diamond, reading the mail. Good morning, so and so." And they might from my car just try.
Well, the whole bowl starts from the channel jumpers, doesn't it?
Yeah, Roots of Channel Jumpers. That's where I started from. You think the Yellow Jacket and the Roots of Channel Jumpers, Channel 6. And at that time, the Roots of Channel Jumpers, they policed the band, and they policed it too. Profanity wasn't tolerated at all. You would get checked real quick about profanity, and they had a certain courtesy and ethics about it. You didn't say break, but you would kind of, and they would tease every now, but they didn't tolerate a lot of foolishness at that time. It was a little net. Yeah.
Little net. So when did you move away from having a Palomar and the dual antennas?
Once again, Yellow Jacket.
Okay.
Yellow Jacket
theme here.
Yellow Jacket just bringing me stuff and
spending your money.
Spending my money.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know how much it's gonna cost. Next thing I looked up, he got Mud Duck. He called me a Mud Duck. Man, you think you're just a Mud Duck? You ain't doing nothing. And he ordered me a heat kit. I don't know where he got it. I forgot where he got it from. I don't think he got that from Calvin. I guess back then we had a heat kit. That's why we had a heat kit store up in Northeast Atlanta, and he told me what to go up there and get. The heat kit cost me. I went and bought the kit in the box.
Yep.
And they asked me. He said, "Now they're gonna ask you for a call sign," and he gave me something. Tell them this is you right here. Because they did ask me for a call sign. I bought the heat kit in the box. I think I paid $300 some, less than $400 for the kit in a box. I bought it in Northeast Atlanta. And then I took it home. When he came back in town, he picked that heat kit, and took it to Mississippi. And I forgot the odds handle of Mississippi. He took it to, and it took about 3 or 4 weeks for him to put it together. And that's where I got. And then when he brought that heat kit back, I got me a Pace 1000, and he also had brought me a Pace 1000B. Yellow Jack was just bringing me stuff. I don't know if I guess he made a little profit off it, but I was happy, you know. He brought me a Pace 1000B, and that was a beautiful looking radio. And then, like I said, so I had the Palomar that he brought me the 1000B. Then he told me where to go get the heat kit, and he took it with him. Had the guy put the heat kit, and he came back. And by this time, during that time, he'd put up my Laser 500s. And after he put those up, and that's when he got my heat kit. He was steadily building my station. Of course, he'd make a little change too.
Enjoying himself.
Yeah, enjoying himself. But he was putting it all together for me. And he brought that heat kit back. And Mr. Godfather was ruling Atlanta at that time. It was all about Mr. Godfather. He ruled Atlanta. And there was an operator down the road, down towards Augusta, named Peter Wheatstraw, the devil's son-in-law, Robert Evans, and Peter Wheatstraw. The Godfather was Atlanta, and Godfather, his voice was carried. He was talking on the Collins, I believe, back then.
Yeah, that's what he said yesterday when I talked to him.
And so Godfather talking Skip, and then I keyed up, and Yellow Jacket keyed up, and that was it. Then after that, started making hookups, and that's how I started with the heat kit. And
The two-tuber, SB220.
SB220, stock SB220, built to specs, and that's where. And
How much was the 3500Z back then?
About $50. 3500 is about $50. IMAX. IMAX. I didn't even know about Amperex at the time, till later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you guys start modifying those?
My first modification came about a year or two later, about 2 years
Being
later.
77, 78 now. Yeah.
And that modification, because we were blowing the little transformers in the heat kit, what happened, we were blowing them. And I blew my first transformer talking, and it stink real bad.
They do smell horrible. Yeah.
So then I got another one, and I blew it. I blew 2 transformers, and there was a guy down in Tuskegee named Bed Check Charlie.
Bed Check
Charlie. Out of Tuskegee.
It's a great handle.
And he told me, order you another transformer from Heat Kit, and then come down here. And I ordered an extra transformer and went down to Tuskegee, and he co-faced some parallel them transformers together. Combined the 2 transformers. One was on the outside and the other wired into the other one. And he changed out my circuit breakers and put about a 2 30 amp fuses in the back. And that was my first modification. Taking the circuit breakers out and adding an extra heat kit transformer. And that was the beginning of it. And then while he looking at it, he said, you can put another tube right back, take that fan out back there and put a little plate, and we'll put you another tube back there. And that's where it started. Went from the 2-tuber to 3-tuber. And
where did it stop?
I went up eventually over the years. I went up as far as 10 500Zs. By that time I had met Toolbox out of Montgomery, Alabama.
I've heard that handle before.
Yeah, Toolbox, and before that was Lightning Bolt, but Lightning Bolt got busy, and the Lightning Bolt had taught Toolbox, and from that point on, Toolbox he would keep us going. King Snake and I, at that time King Snake, later on King of the South, but we would go down to Montgomery every other Saturday, sometime every Saturday, spend the whole day down there with toolbox. Break down or any modifications, but it just got to be a thing. Melvin and I would drive down to Montgomery all the time, spend the day with toolbox. He wasn't working on our stuff until the evening time. We'd get down there. Shoney's we used to go to have breakfast at Shoney's. We go by his mechanic shop. We go all over Montgomery, and we have lunch. And then
Spend the day with him.
Spend the day. He wasn't working on our stuff to the evening time. He'd fix whatever we wanted done in 20, 30 minutes.
Right.
And be complaining. Didn't you see that right there? Bring that junk on in here. We wouldn't get home to 11 o'clock at night. Spend the whole day down in Montgomery. Yeah. We have made 2 trips down there today, pick up stuff. But toolbox, from that point, we call ourselves, say we were running toolbox specials.
So you went from a 3, and then was there like a 4 and a 5 tube version? And
Well, I went from a 2 till a 3 till a 5 till a 10. That's where I went up.
what were you getting out of the 10?
About 3,000 watts, a little bit over 3,000 watts. That's all I was getting out of it at the time. My transformers, I was using 4 heat kit transformers at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. I may have been getting more than that. Probably a little bit more than that. Yeah, I was getting more than that because I was getting close to 3 with the 3. With the 5, I was getting 3,000 watts. With the 10, I was getting close to 5,000 watts with the 10. But I was still, at first, using, Toolbox had me use 4 heat kit transformers, put them in the case and parallel them. Then eventually I got me a Peter Dow. I forgot me the amps.
Did they play voltage up a little bit?
And then we put the Peter Dow separate onto the 10 tuber. And after that, later on, then eventually, we start going to the steel.
Yeah. What was your first steel tube amp you got? 250Bs?
250Bs.
Yeah.
I had 4 250Bs.
Yeah. That's amazing, right? You go from big old glass bottles down to this little tiny thing.
4 250Bs. It would pattern after the Telstar, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I forgot who did. Toolbox worked on them. Melvin was getting to them. Back then, Mr. Bluegill was getting real good with them Telstars. And that's, I think, Bluegill was really become the master of those, you know. And that, and they had the Saturn. I think the Saturn was six 250Bs, I believe.
Saturn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Went to that, you know. And then after that, well, I talked to that for a while, and then eventually, you know, came up to the 3,000. 3,000. And from that point, I had backed off the base station as much, and that's when I met Muddy Waters. And you talking about like and I ended up doing Melvin and I, Kingsake and I had met Muddy Waters, I think, at the break in Augusta. We used to call out in the cow pasture at that time, and he made us a deal. If we both bought his 3,000, he gave us a deal. I think we got him like $2,000 a piece. It was cheap, but the idea, but y'all buy them together. And I had a 3,000. Melvin had 3,000.
Times have changed.
Yeah, we had 3,000, and
they get up there to about 10.
I was doing about 7, not quite. I had it in the Cadillac, and I had to alternate. I think I just had one.
You're doing it in a mobile.
Yeah, I was doing it. That's when we went to mobile.
Okay.
And so I wasn't talking
Hold
much
on
in the
one
base.
second here.
Let's
Let's talk about that later. We got all kinds of time. Camera's rolling. It says record on the screen. So you're telling me about your antenna that you had on the Cadillac. What'd you have on that? And what were you running for coax?
It was a coil antenna. It looked like a Monkey made. Had the flat band coils, and Sledgehammer he made the antenna themselves. So those Sledgehammers, and Sledgehammer, he and Muddy Waters worked together quite a bit. Sledgehammer at the time was winning a lot of contests in the one alternator class, and I ended up buying. That's where I got my first 3,000 from. It was a Muddy Water Slapper.
Right, that's what you said, yeah.
And So the antenna was, so he designed the antenna for me as one of his.
So when was your first break that you ever went to? Do you remember that?
I remember exactly. But my first break was in Pensacola, Florida, in 1977.
The hotel room I was going to get was in Pensacola, right across from the naval base down
Okay,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. Right on the beach.
Yeah, they had a Rooster Channel jumper break in June of 1977 in Pensacola, Florida, and we had a lot of us had started our own club here in Atlanta. We didn't want to be a part. We wanted something different besides Rooster Channel jumpers. Just be independent. And we chartered a bus. No, that's Dallas. No, we drove our cars down to Pensacola. We got a bunch of rooms together, and we drove down to Pensacola, Florida, to CB break, Rooster Channel jumper break, and that was my first break. And it was a big break too.
How many people you think?
Probably about a couple. It could be a couple thousand, I think.
Decent.
Decent,
Real
yeah.
decent. for
Real
back
decent
then.
break. Flagship was the president of the Rooster Channel Jumper Board, and the dance was on. It had this big auditorium, was sitting right on the water. Went down there, and the main hotel was a Holiday Inn. We stayed across the street at the hotel. And it was we lit Pensacola, Florida up. It was big. And then the next break I went to was the mega break. The next year was Dallas, Texas, 1968. That's the biggest break that ever has been. That break made Jet Magazine. They said there were 15,000 CBs there. And it was at the Marriott in Dallas, Texas. Couldn't get a room there. I was about one or two exits down. And my club members, we chartered a bus and went down there. And there was CB. It was hot. It was in June 1968. Very hot that weekend. Scorching hot. There was CBs everywhere. The break was so, like I said, it made the magazine, Jet Magazine. And I don't know if you're familiar with Jet. Jet was in
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It made Jet Magazine. And
You'd be amazed how many of these people I've interviewed were at that break. And how much that affected their lives.
oh yeah, it's amazing. We got back home, everybody said, "I just got a break." You were there too? It's like
Yeah, you're all there, but there's so many people
you couldn't see each other.
Yeah.
You met a lot of people you met a lot of people you had never met before, but there's so many you didn't meet and got back home.
Well, it's not like you could call each other on the cell phone, and I'm sure the radio was just a mess.
And we didn't have cell phones back then.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying.
We didn't have cell phones, and the airway was jammed. You couldn't talk a block. Everybody was on the radios, and everybody was muscle up. Of course, back probably Mako 300 is about the strongest thing back then. Didn't even have hurricanes back then. We had, I think, the Mako Duster, the Mako 300 about for the Mobile boxes. Didn't have the Mako 1000 yet, and everybody was running shotgun hustle with the beer cans on them.
Right. Old cool hustle. man.
I remember looking in the parking lot where cars are parked, and all you could see out on the road was shotgun hustler antennas with the beer can on them. It looked like the standing at attention. I had one too.
Of course, yeah.
Everybody had a hustler. They'd break down the middle, if you wanted to, but they were standing tall. And a lot of times we put a fishing line to the edge of the trunk to wrap around it because it would lean back too far if you didn't have the right mount on it. But everybody had a shotgun. And one while you couldn't get them. You could get the pole, but you couldn't get the beer can. Hustler antennas they couldn't keep them in stock back then. That was the antenna. Hustler beer can, shotgun hit beer cans.
What was the first shootout you ever did?
That I ever did, I went to.
Yeah, no, that you actually participated in.
Oh.
It's a good question. Made you think.
I think probably that I participated in might have been in West Palm Beach, Florida, around Florida. Yeah, went down in Florida, yeah. Back then, Woody Woodpecker had some breaks. down there. But with it, and Golden Arm, they had got Golden Arm back then.
Okay, so do me a favor here. Explain to everybody how the whole channel jumper thing worked. So where did that club actually start? And they would go to town to town to town. They'd set up a club, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Or is it a little convoluted? Is it too convoluted to explain?
I
or-
can't explain because when I got into it, which was '75, the Roots of Challenge Jumpers were already there. Godfather probably knew more about it than I did, and probably Motorman, which is in Alabama now, Big Motor. They know more about it because I think it started up around Detroit, Chicago area, when it started. Flagship was, when I came in, Flagship was the president, and Uncle BB was his sidekick up there. Easy Rider, who's gone on to glory, he was part of the original Roots of Challenge Jumpers from that standpoint. But I think they just started out from that point, and I couldn't give you the real good history. When I came in, they were going at it. But just before I came in, the CB then started the D104s. And D104 was headed up by Mr. 500 and his wife, Miss Blossom,
Not the microphone, the club.
the club.
Okay.
The D104s, their colors were orange and black. And they came in, they were second largest club next to the Rooster Challenge Jumpers. Now they started out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And they had some very good big breaks. The first big break I went to there was in Nashville, Tennessee, and that should have been around 1978 or 79, the year after that. And then after Nashville, they had a break in Las Vegas. And
Did you go to that one?
Yeah, I went to that one too.
Las Vegas hot.
Yeah,
It's hot.
they gave away a cat. I think it was a Cadillac they gave away. They're breaking.
They gave away a car.
It was at the Aladdin Hotel, and Aladdin's no longer. They're torn it down.
Yeah, it's gone, yeah.
It was, I think it was owned by Johnny Carson back then. And the same year that the D104s had their break in Vegas, the next weekend, the Rooster Challenge had a break in Detroit, Michigan, at the Cadillac Hotel. And Kingston and I drove to that one. I flew to Vegas to the D104s.
It was back when you had to dress up to go on the airplane, and
everybody
got served a meal, and
Yeah.
you could smoke on the plane.
Yeah, you could smoke on the plane back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we took a late night. We took an evening flight, and I think I think my flight was about 10, 11 o'clock that night to Vegas that night, and my body clock was all messed up. I woke up, and it was still dark outside. But I'm thinking it should be morning. But that was a big break. But I remember there were more folk when the dance went off. There weren't many people to dance because they were still in the casino. And I remember Uncle BB out of Toledo. When I went to bed, he was on that slot machine. When I came out, Uncle BB was still on the slot machine. Uncle BB had a real big station back then out in Toledo. Yeah. Yeah.
What was big back then in the 80s? What would you guys consider a big station back then? Because today it's absurd. The numbers that get thrown around today are just silliness
Well,
in my mind.
a lot of guys up north were getting steel boxes,
Yeah.
But I think the 3000s would back then were some of the biggest. 8877s and 3000s.
Who was the first guy that you ever met that had anything bigger than that?
Had anything bigger than that?
Yeah. Like a pair of threes or 10 or 15 or...
Well, Melvin, I was always around Melvin.
Yeah.
And Melvin always kept up with, from that point. Mean Green, the first big time steel I saw was Mean Green out of Detroit, Michigan. And I went to his house, and that was the first big steel toolbox that I had ever talked to was Mean Green out of Detroit, Michigan.
What did he have?
I'm not even sure. I think it was a 3 or better. Might have been a 10. I'm not sure. Back then they didn't tell you exactly, but I knew it was a big thing, and it was shutting down everything that talked on. We were still talking on Z's down south,
Yeah.
and the boys up, Uncle BB and out of Toledo, Mean Green, them guys in Detroit, and then of course Gil, Mr. Bluegill always was top of the line, big stuff like that. Bluegill has always been at the top, and because he would build stuff, Sometimes people talk about Ghost Rider came on later on, but Ghost Rider always had very pretty boxes. Gill's boxes they say wouldn't be pretty, but they work though.
Run like sin. Look like hell, run like sin.
Yeah, it looked like hell, run like sin, but they worked. It's hard to beat the Bluegill back then. He always put out good quality work. It wasn't always said to be most aesthetics, but it worked though.
It worked good. Yeah, it was really neat to get to meet him.
Yeah, he's had several handles over the years, but he's been in it since I've been in it. I've known him over the years.
So when did you graduate back to having a base station? So where we left off, we were in the early 90s. You had the 3000 in the Cadillac.
Around 95, I got my pair of threes, and that was I was built by Muddy Water Slapper, built by Muddy Waters. After I got through messing with the Mobile, then I had moved to another house out in the country, and not too far from me. But now this was country back then, and I gave Muddy Water. I went and got a pair of threes. I think I bought them JB, and I gave them to Sledgehammer. He took them up. I think I met Muddy Water at one of the breaks in North Carolina. Gave him the tubes, and not before then. But I gave him those tubes, and he built it from scratch, and that's when I got a pair of threes. That Muddy Water built a very good, dependable box.
Turnkey, turn on, go.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think the 3000 is the best tube they ever developed for us. The way us operators run.
I went to a break in Detroit. Sunny Day gave, and I had a Suburban, Burgundy Suburban, 95 service, and I had that 3000. And that 3000 talked his head off, and I talked all the way from Detroit back to Atlanta. And I burnt that tube up, but it talked all the way back. I got home, then it wouldn't key the next morning, but it talked. I didn't know the blower had gone out.
Oh, shoot. How black was the tube?
Oh, it completely blacked up.
Charcoal.
Yeah. Sledgehammer got me another one, but I talked all the way from Detroit back home. Of course, I know it started smelling kind of funny, but I was having such a good time. But,
What were you guys paying for 3000s back then?
About $800. Maybe a little bit less than that.
In the 90s? Wow, that's amazing. We've only gone up by a couple $100, 20 years.
Might have been. Well, I think you could have got a used one less than that.
Oh, well, yeah, but then you don't know what you got going on.
Yeah, but I think between $600 and $800, yeah, for 3000. Yeah. But it's still the most durable tube out.
Oh yeah, by far.
It's the most durable, and for the amount of money, it's the most durable tube out.
Yeah.
And then to have a pair of threes, I mean, a pair of threes compete now with a lot of big stations,
Well, they say the cheap seat on the bowl is a 3000.
Yeah.
And then in my mind, a pair of threes is like having a 10.
It is.
Roughly.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's pushing them threes pretty hard. So then, that next big step without having to give up any more space, but maybe just a little bit more plate bolts and slightly different filaments, the 15, And there's very little difference between the 15 and the 20 other than the plate bolts.
That's what they tell me, yeah.
But then I had to go to the next page. But When did you decide that you were going to do something other than the 3 at the base?
King of the South, Melvin.
He's a block away, man. Come on.
Melvin Melvin got a pair of 15s, and I'd had a problem, and that I had at the time I had to sell my pair of 3s, and then when I got ready to come back, I was going to buy another set of pair of 3s, and Melvin said, "Why are you going to do that? I'm right 10 minutes away. Why don't you buy my?" He said, and I was going to buy my pair of 3s from a guy who lived here, and he says, all he gonna do is sell you his pair of 3s and buy my 15. He said, but why don't you go and buy the 15? He said, I make you a better deal than anybody else. And I said, yeah.
Well, about what year was that?
That'd be what, 15?
2015?
Yeah. And then what I did, I went to my saving account. I got 5, and he took that, and I said, I paid the rest. He said, well, I said, I ain't got to have it now. And so
He's a good guy.
And we worked on. He said, well, we're gonna send it down to Tom and let Tom go through it, make sure it's right. You go and get your beans. And I was moving, get your beans back up and everything. So, and I was talking on 16 peel, and I got the beans up, put the 16 peel on the beans while we finished getting that together. I didn't talk on it for quite some time, but that's how I ended up with the pair. With the 15 is the King of the South.
Yeah.
And I started out with
it's
a
a
real
whole
low.
lot easier on a 15 than it is that pair of 3s, though, you got to admit.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And I started out low because I wasn't, at the time I had 217, and so I was scared to go past,
Yeah.
I wouldn't go too high, and I was working into it, but it was talking. It just showed you.
And then how much longer until you started letting fire out the end of the antenna?
Well, about a year later, when I got my 218, I bought my 218,
Yeah.
and once
That is good coax. I don't care. I'm absolutely amazed with what that coax can handle. I mean, really am. Everybody
and
says
it's flexible.
Yeah, everybody says go to, 7/8s, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I want to stay away from hardline as long as but I'm at the point now where it's like the 218's getting a little old, and I'm not gonna lie, I've been pretty hard on it. So when Melvin got that spool of coax,
Yeah.
I took what I needed off that roll and then sent him the rest, and I need to get that up in the air. Man, that is some heavy stuff though.
Yeah. I went 218, and Melvin and I talked about it. Said it could do what I just didn't want to. I just have a fear of the hotline because I have so many guys who had problem with the hotline and the mobility of the beams. And if you don't get that coil right, and you got certain angles, like for up here talking to Florida is a hard angle on our beams. We stay west most of the time, so when you go to Florida, I got to go way back up. And that loop, the way you got to do it, how you
It's a little tight, yeah.
yeah, so tight, and you don't want to crack that outer shielding, copper shielding.
And I've noticed that the 218, if you put any pressure on it, like going over a corner or something, it actually will cave in a little bit. Yeah, and then you get a hot spot.
Yeah. So we shoot a pole out. What I did, come down. Then of course you don't want to touch metal, and get it droop, and then put it on a pole with and put something on the plastic or whatever, and then drop it. We just drop it from that point. But you got to put a whole lot of it up there, and it's just twisting and turning. Hardline is just scary to me.
Same here.
It's just scary.
I got dogs and kids. I don't want that stuff laying in my backyard.
Yeah. Then you like say you need to bury it.
Pardon me. I have a dog.
You need to put some PVC pipe in the ground, get it down there, but still, you got to have it out. You don't want it close to the tower, so. So with the 218 is served me well, but I've had it. I'm looking at the jacket. My jacket looks rather It looks rather gray and look discoloration.
Send it. So when did you decide that you were going to start doing the DX directory? How did that whole, because that's how most people, other than talking to you directly on radio, most people think of you as being the DX directory guy.
Yeah.
How did that all start? Give me that history.
1980. Dr. Ripoff out of, he lived around Warrenton, Georgia. And Little Skipper lived in Macon, Georgia. They were good CB friends of mine. And they used to both talk on the radio. And a lot of people remember Dr. Ripoff. Well, I had a real estate company. And my wife was one of the secretaries. So I had a good sized office. I had a lot of office equipment and everything. And it was their idea. I think it was more Ripoff's idea than Skipper. And they needed somebody who had the wherewithal and the know-how. They had the idea, but putting it together and making it come together, they came to me because I had office and I had facilities in office. And I guess I had the credit to get the printers and all that kind of stuff and how to put it together. So they told me what they wanted to do with it. And they got the idea for the ham call book. They said, well, I think they went to ACT Radio here and they saw a ham call book. And he said, we need a CB call book. And he said, we're going to call it, I think it was then, I don't know if that, I forget who came up with DX Directory. Between the book office, we came up with the name DX Directory because of Skip. But the idea came from the ham call book. And then they came to me and said, how do we do this? How you want to do this? And they said, well, we're going, and that's how we started with it. And what we did for the next year, we made up a form. Every break we went to, we started having people fill out the forms.
Right.
And we told them what we were going to do. Now, back then, we charged $1 to be in the book, $1, $2, something, I think it was $1.
Right.
To be in the book. And we told them we're going to charge, I think we're going to charge $5 for the book. But we took about a year collecting names. And some people, I didn't come, but we had about 300 or 400 names within the year. Then we come up with our first book, and it was the size of 8.5, 11 folded in half. And then we printed, so it was a small book. And we had like 300 names in there, and we did it by state. So each state some states didn't have more than 10 names in it, but then we added a little blank name, address, and handle type spaces. And then we went to the break in D104 break in Dallas, Texas in 1981, and began to sell the book. And we sold a lot of books, but more importantly, we took down a whole lot of handles,
so you
names.
could grow the book, right?
Yeah. And back then, like I said, we were charging to be in the book back then. Since we later changed that because people were getting confused. I paid you for a book. They said, well, no, that was to be in the book.
In the book.
And people got confused, and it kind of caused some misunderstandings. So we said, well, we're not going to charge. We're not going to charge for the book to be in the book now. We just going.
Well, you finally got to the point where it was paying for itself.
Yeah, paying for itself. And but it was in Dallas, Texas, at the Hilton Hotel, downtown Dallas, Texas, 1981, D104 break when we first bought the first DX directory out. But Little Skipper and Dr. Ripoff, it was their idea, and they came to me. And my wife was a clerical person, and Black Angel, and she helped put together. She set all the type and everything up, but that's when we started with it. They since kind of dropped out of CB, and my real estate company provided the money, and I paid for the printing.
Technically, it was yours.
Yeah.
But you're giving credit for them.
Yeah. I'm giving them credit because I heard one time there's something about they didn't see their name, so.
It probably never made any money if you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really think about it, there was very little money that was ever really made, and you were fronting most of the work. So
yeah, but it was their idea. So
yeah,
and And what it did, it was more or less, well, from us, it was, we just used it to take care of our expenses to go to the break.
Right.
It paid for the hotel room and some gas.
Right.
But it offered a service from that point. And that's how it's gotten bigger than that, you know. And now there's about 2,500 names in there. And it's amazing.
It's amazing that we still have 2,500 active operators too.
Yeah. Well, one thing we did, we never take you out of the book, even when you pass on to go to rest.
Okay.
We put you in the loving memories section. And we always ask people to update, but it's amazing. I got more pages, I got more names and listings from Hawaii than I have almost most states. Hawaii, the CBS in Hawaii, and Dr. J had a lot to do with that. Dr. J out of Fresno, he helped push that.
Well, I'm here to tell you that them boys in Hawaii, one, they know how to throw a fun break.
I heard they do.
And two, I cannot believe how many women are on the radio there. And three, I can't believe how many young people are on the radio there.
That's amazing. Yeah, Bullet Bob goes there every year, I think.
The problem is that the phones don't work everywhere. And sometimes certain places on some of the islands, the power's a little iffy at best. And I was really amazed to see how many people, everybody I met at that break had a handle. Every one of them. Even little kids running around playing in the pool. They all had handles. All talked on the radio, and it was all second nature to them. That was really neat, because everywhere else I go, it's there's no young people. There's no young people. But, you know, Daddy uses the radio in Hawaii to talk to his buddy down the street who he works for down at the marina or whatever, you know, whatever the story is.
Yeah.
And was fun. And, man, can they cook?
Imagine they can.
If you walked away from that break hungry and you didn't have food to eat for the next 3 days, it was your fault. I mean, trays and trays. Pigs. I mean, I think they rendered 3 or 4 pigs.
They cooked the pigs in the ground, right? Yeah. I've seen them done with the coals and then the big palm tree leaves.
They'd done all that a couple days before, and they brought it all in because the park, this beautiful park that they rent over there to do that break at, is gorgeous. The park doesn't let them dig a hole in the ground and put a pig in it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Obviously. But no, it was, my wife, she made a couple friends there, and this one gal was like, here, come with me. And she just took her. And my wife has got goat guts. Like, she can eat anything, right? And she loves to try new things. And that gal just took her around and introduced her to all the different foods. And it was neat. It was very good time.
Yeah. I think Bullet Bob went over there last month. I think he said.
The break was last month, yeah.
Last month. Yeah. I saw his listing where when he was leaving and then when he came back or something. But he has some postings on it, listings on it.
If I ever go back, I don't have to do the hula skirt because I've already done it. Yeah, they put you in coconut bra and hula skirt and make you dance and stuff. It's kind of cute if it's your first time there. So.
Yeah, I heard it. And I just mentioned, I've been talking to Mod Squad since back in the 70s.
He's a nice man. Very quiet.
I've been talking. He was the first CB I ever talked to him over there. Mod Squad in Mobile. And talked to him. And I met him at one of Dr. J's breaks. I guess it was in the 90s, I guess.
I wish I could interview Dr. J.
You never met Dr. J? Yeah.
He's a legend, man.
Yeah, Dr. J, he stayed with me a couple of times. He and his wife would come down, and we went up. I used to he'd fly here, and he'd get with me and go to Augusta. They had the break in Chattanooga, and it's amazing. Talking about my baby boy, when the break came to Chattanooga, Hazel was pregnant. She went to that break that weekend with Dr. J and his wife. I took Dr. J into the airport and to come back, Hazel standing in the middle of the floor and her water broke.
Let's go to the hospital.
Just got through taking Dr. J to that.
Yeah.
So when Dr. J got home, I said, we made it back. I said, yeah, and Hazel got the baby. Yeah. But,
well, sir, thank you for your time.
Yeah, I hope it'd be interesting. Somewhere.
Wonderful host. Thank you for feeding me yesterday. That was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. Well, and we feed you in the South. We always know in Fiji, and it's to have a wife. I've got a good wife.
Oh, she's an angel. I mean, she is a sweetie.
A lot of women fight the radio, CB radio, over the past. Their husband's attention and time put into the radio, and especially when they're younger, they felt like the husband neglected them for the radio. And with the CBs, a lot of them felt like when they get to the hotel, they just want to leave me. You know, my wife, we belong to a club, but my wife never had a problem with CB radio. She bought me CB radio equipment, and she's just a southern, southern home type person, and she get along with CBs. She may be a little quiet, but when they get to, but she don't talk to them more, but she used to talk to Black Angel is her handle, that is, and we had a large club at one time. But she enjoys CB radios. She considered that a part of our life, and that's part of my
lifestyle. It's not.
It's like you said, it's a lifestyle, and she accepted that lifestyle, and she's a part of that lifestyle, and so
I knew I'd married the right woman. We were sitting on the beach of Hawaii 2 times back that we were there. We've been there several times now. We're sitting there watching the sunset, and we're going to go catch the midnight flight to LA, and watching the sunset. She looks at me and she goes, "This entire trip was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And when you get home, I want you to go buy that big 40,000 tube you've been wanting to buy." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "I'll probably finish that before we even get to the airport."
Yeah,
She gets it. My wife gets it.
I mean, it's wonderful because so many. I've heard some people almost have divorces over the radio.
Oh yeah, it's
some
crazy.
women, but I don't have no problem. When the kids were growing up, and I was on the CB back in the '80s, I used to talk a lot back then. That's where I got out of my reputation. Because one time I won a trophy for having the best station in the nation. That's back in that time when I was talking good. But Mama, we complained about, because back then we took TVs up back then. Didn't have fair rights.
Right, and we didn't have HDMI and digital.
And they said, she said, go get your book or something. She wouldn't say nothing. The very time she said about me on the CB and the kids want to do something else. And we lived out, I lived further away down to Palmetto, so the signals from Atlanta were really bad. And we really didn't have cable then. We had some little satellite things we used to get. They had some things we do, but
still analog TV.
But TV hours was real bad.
Yeah.
And I was better than most. I had one complaint with FCCC, and I satisfied that one, and I lived out that time, and so I worked in my match, and I had some good ground. I had real good ground. That time, our property had a well. I was on well water.
You want to grab that pipe?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I got the big copper. I just threw that sucker down in the well. The big copper pipe and the copper wire into it, and threw it down in the well. Sure did. And then I had a ground field. I had the ground rods out there. Was it 20 feet, 18 feet, whatever it was, and then one on each leg. And then they did a web, did all that.
That helped a bunch, doesn't it? Yeah.
I got a web out there now. It maybe help now.
My soil out where I live is so soft, I can take the ground rod and go.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Brown, soft dirt. Yeah, I seen that. I was like, man, that took some work to get that through the floor.
It's down. That's 8 foot rod.
Yeah, through the floor.
That's one over here. That's 8 foot rod back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 8 foot rod down through there.
Well, you got anything you want to add to the world for them to hear, to them to see?
Well, I don't think I sometimes I have concerns about what CB radio has gone, but I think when you talk on the radio, you should talk to lift your brothers up. Don't tear each other down. Always speak positive to something. Make it a positive thing. And always try to say something good about the person you're talking to and the person you're talking against. Don't criticize. I always had a thing, if you can't say nothing good about nobody, don't say nothing about them at all. Don't tear your brothers down. And I think we should keep our conversations positive, keep our positive house. And I have a problem with the profanity. I think I think you have to keep in mind that these radios are played in a lot of them in our homes, like mine is. Not my radio is not outside in the shack, and my grandchildren, my children, my grandchildren, and my wife are listening to what people say on my radio, and to keep that in mind. And I think that should be kept in mind. So watch how you use your tongue and what you say on your radio, because my wife, my wife hears all this, and when my children have their own, but when my grandkids are here, they hear that, and the rough profanity and the rude language, I think we should check ourselves on that. You know, and always speak well of each other, because you know,
Good luck on the speaking well of each other thing, but on the radio we should treat each other a little bit more dignified.
Right, more dignified on the radio.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it's teasing and it's play, and there's a certain it's competition. As Mr. King Snake told me one time, King of the South said, it's all about fame and glory on the radio. It's a lot of fame and glory, and everybody wants to hear their name called, and that's good. And I think that we should just keep that in mind. Stay positive. Keep your hobby positive, and try to keep down the profanity.
Fair enough. Sir, thank you.
Yes, sir.